Well, given the current power crisis, many are questioning whether South Africa should have turned to renewable energy sooner. But the deal signed between the independent power producers and Eskom continues to receive pushback. Most recently, the Coal Transporters Forum has taken the fight to court. To discuss the role of renewable energy in the current crisis, I'm joined by Brenda Martin, who is the CEO of the SA Wind Energy Association. Good evening, Brenda. Thanks very much for your time. Before we get to your specific role, is it correct to say, as things stand, given the crisis, the load-shedding crisis that we are facing, there isn't much that you as independent power producers can do? Is that factually correct?
Well, the entire power system and the way the system is regulated in South Africa is designed so that there's only one off-taker, which is Eskom. So independent power producers must sell to Eskom. That is absolutely binding within the law. What we are able to do is offer more smaller scale solutions, but even that is limited by regulation.
Why is that? I mean, in a period like we are in now, where there is clearly a crisis, by their own admission, Eskom can't, there's nothing that they say. I mean, they say there's nothing that they can do. Do you have more capacity to actually help Eskom? But are you suggesting that you're being stopped by regulations?
Yes. What we have shown as an industry is that we are able to build from the moment of PPAs being concluded up to the moment when power is connected to the grid, that on average takes no longer than 2 years. We've also shown that we can operate within budget and on time. We generally achieve 98% on budget and on time, and any cost overruns are carried by the private sector. In addition, the rooftop market has just shown its immense potential, but it also is limited by...
But if I heard the Eskom executives and board members correctly, today they are saying there are still a lot of challenges associated with your contribution, like being connected to the grid, but also making power available at the required times. Look, they take solar as an example. They say that at the critical times that the power is needed, solar can't give the electricity that is needed at the time that it is required.
When everyone looks at what power capacity there is in the system, you need to take into account that we're talking about a geography. There are many different locations around the country where renewable power plants have been built. So at any given time, you're not experiencing the same weather conditions, for instance, in the same place.
Which they say is a problem.
Yes, but you have got records over the last 3 years. The CSIR has demonstrated through tracking the actual outputs and has shown that our power outputs from renewable power plants actually track the demand curves. And in the case of wind, we address the evening peak, and in the case of solar, the morning and midday peaks. So if you consider the fact that these power systems are working together, rather than take a view that there's one technology that is being applied at any given moment, then you achieve a collective output which is significant.
Well, I mean, if Eskom is to be believed, they are not bothered either way. They don't think you're the least of their problems, if I heard the chairperson of Eskom correctly. But the problem, the challenges that are there are challenges that are inherent in, one, the stage at which independent like your sector is at the moment, and the costs even, they say, are not an issue for them because they simply pass that on to the consumer. But there are people who have actually raised the issue of costs, whether in fact the prices you are charging are indeed competitive and in the long run won't be detrimental to the situation we already have.
So let's deal with cost quickly. First of all, the cost trajectories have changed significantly since the first bid round. So Bid rounds 1 and 2 really showed that as the market was being opened up and greater risks were attached to a new market opportunity, that bid prices were higher. Those dropped quite fast by around 3, and they dropped even further by around 4. If we should have an auction process happening in this year, we would see even lower tariffs that are achieved within the market. So the cost issue is no longer an issue. If you want to consider the fact that we had those costs in the beginning, then that's a valid argument, but definitely does not apply now. But in terms of what it is that we're able to offer, we contribute around 5% of the power mix at the moment, and of course we would like to contribute more. We can do that, and we as a private sector, we are able to actually ensure that there's power that is achieved within 2 years, as I've said earlier. If we had the power purchase agreements from around 4 signed 2 years ago, we would have had 2,000 megawatts online now.
Well, what do you think? Do you think that the breaking down of ESCOM will help the situation that we have currently?
I think that in any decision that is made around our energy future, we obviously have to start with how is this going to affect people, and how is it going to affect particularly the achievement of those low tariffs directly to consumers. So we're very interested in understanding how that can happen optimally. And then if that means that restructuring ESCOM is a way to achieve that, then of course we support that. And it is...
But do you have a view on it?
Yeah, our view is that you can achieve more positive outcomes directly to consumers with a restructured ESCOM.
Okay, well, you have the Coal Transporters Forum, of course, having taken this to court. They are being supported by organizations like, unions like NUMSA. What are your view? Because NUMSA is obviously worried about job losses, possible job losses.
I think that our concerns are common. We are all concerned about ensuring that there are more jobs. Net job growth is a concern that we all share. And I think that it would be good if we could have more conversations around what it is that we have in common and can achieve together than what it is that we need to stop. There are so many globally, everywhere in developing economies, not only in developed economies, there's a growing understanding of the fact that the energy transition must happen, that we need to achieve this outcome for both from a climate perspective and from a cost perspective for power supply. And we want to achieve those outcomes, and we believe they will create new opportunities, new jobs, and better jobs than some of the jobs that have been offered by the coal sector to date.
Do you think conversations may go a long way towards allaying perhaps some of the fears?
I certainly hope so, and we have tried to have many conversations. Unfortunately, ideological positions are very difficult to shift, and I think if we can set those aside and think in terms of South Africa's best interests, and if we can think in terms of what is it that our future generations are going to be inheriting from us, we might take different views.
But there has to be a concerted effort on all sides.
Yes.
Thanks very much for coming through, Brenda. Brenda Martin is the CEO of the SA Wind Energy Association.